Hello, I'm glad to welcome all of you on ZED conference and our panel discussion. As you know, there are a huge amount of technology in our modern world. As a specialist, we want to understand what we can do and how we could change it. So we want to change our future together. And this is one of the topics for our discussion today. Sometimes it's difficult to choose what you should choose for your test automation, code-based approach or codeless. And our speakers could help us to investigate these questions. Hello, guys.
Hello.
Could you please introduce yourself? Who are you and what are you doing?
Okay, so my name is Yuri. I'm working for EPAM for approximately 2.5 years. Now I'm a lead test automation engineer, so I'm working using Codebased solutions. And my current role on a project is software testing team leader. So this is what I'm doing.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Margarita. With EPAM for almost 6 years now. Currently, I'm working as a test lead on the project. And during the last 5 years, I think, I was working as an automated tester, both with Codeless tools and, I don't know, maybe for half a year with code-based approach. I suppose that's pretty much it.
Thank you, guys. I'm glad to welcome you on our event, and let's start our discussion. And first question is, what is a codeless? Because most part of our attendees knows that what is code-based approach when you choose your program language and trying to implement some tests on it. But what is a codeless?
Yeah, so basically Codeless is a test automation approach when we're not kind of developing solution from scratch, not using code for automation, but using some kind of well-prepared solution, some test automation tool for our automation. And it means basically that we're not writing any code. So we're using kind of a tool or application which provide us maybe with the UI or some DSL, which help us to write the automation tests without any code.
Okay, thank you. And what is the trend in the modern world? I mean, which program language is most popular for now, and do we have any trends between code-based approach and codeless? Yuri?
Well, speaking about code-based approach, I should say that from the development perspective, of course, Java and JavaScript are the most popular languages. After that comes C#, and after that Python. So these four are the most popular ones. From the test automation perspective, I should say that based on EPAM experience, the most popular is Java. After that comes C#, and after that comes JavaScript and Python. However, the speed of developing the JavaScript and Python, the speed of growth, the demand of these code-based approaches is much greater than for Java and C#. Speaking about common test automation trend, I should say that, well, more and more customers now know that we do test automation, what is it test automation, and understand the benefits from test automation. So more and more customers now buy test automation and want to use it in their projects.
Yeah, maybe I'd add here that test automation, not in even testing area, is kind of a trend for all IT, I suppose. And this gives us, kind of understanding that we need to come up with some more creative approaches for test automation as well in our testing strategy. And from my perspective, the most common trend now is continuous testing. Basically, the origination of such approaches like codeless automation, it is just we come to that just because we need to effectively build test automation and as well these
common approach. Yeah, it's a common trend in modern world. Thank you, Margarita. And possibly you could mention some Codeless tool, because we know about languages and programming world, but possibly you have some examples to our participants.
Yeah, as I said, we have different approaches even within the Codeless automation. So we have pretty much a lot of tools that provide us UI, such as Catalan Studio or Tricentis Tosca, and as well we have some tools that, for example, give us some DSL, which helps to write automated tasks like Vividus, which was developed in EPAM, and as well-known test automation tools like record and playback, for example, the seleniumede. So there are a variety of such tools and different approaches currently are used.
Okay, thank you. And what is the difference between preparing and implementing test automation approach using Codeless or code-based? Let's try to investigate this question more deeply, and possibly you could name some pros and cons of each approach. Yuri?
Yeah, I'll try. Speaking about code-based approach and its maybe benefits, I should mention that it has no limitations. So you are sure that using some code-based approach, you can do everything in scope of automation. So you can automate the different level of applications, for example, deep database or backend or front-end or some integration testing. We have these tools and these code-based things and languages living for a long time. So there is big community of test automation specialists and a big knowledge base of best approaches and some ways to fastly develop new some kind of framework and a new solution for your project. So you always know where to find this help, where to find some support. So these are benefits. Maybe main benefits. As for drawbacks, I should mention that maybe there is plenty of time that is needed to become the specialist in code-based sphere. You are a software functional testing engineer and you want to become a test automation engineer or a software engineer in test, you should invest maybe more time in developing your skills. For example, as for me, it took approximately half a year to become a junior level specialist. Maybe for Codeless tool, it is something different. So.
Yeah, actually for the Codeless, it's kind of vice versa. So as for the pros, I can say that we can use out-of-the-box tool without writing basically anything from scratch. Yeah, so we're saving time for preparing the test automation framework for design and automation architecture. So basically we're just taking some out-of-the-box tool and starting to automate from the day one, especially if we have kind of experienced specialists in our team who have already had an experience with this given tool. And as well, as you said, that the cons of the code-based approaches, we need to invest a lot of time in preparation, of the specialists. For the Codeless approach, I'd say we can kind of train people pretty much fast. So, for example, I had an experience with Vividus. We had examples when we started onboarding and basically writing good automation. We had kind of few days. For the junior specialist, it may be kind of a week or two. So it's really easy to onboard.
Okay, so and this person didn't use the Vividus tool before, right?
Yeah, right. Actually, we did this with trainees, guys who haven't had any experience in hands-on testing, even manual testing. So it's kind of students, guys who have just started to learn testing itself. It's really good experience that we had on training from the scratch. I think that for other tools, especially UI-based tools, it may be even faster. And as for pros, I'd say that since we're not writing any code and tests are pretty much understandable, so at least it's some kind of a DSL, human readable, we can be more transparent with our customer and with our teams. For example, if you are trying to show the automated tasks which you've written in Java to your product owner, for example, I give you maybe 90% that he or she will not understand anything. When we are sharing our tasks in DSL, for example, BDD-like, something like this, it's kind of readable and understandable. So guys without any technical background can understand what we're doing.
Well, yep. I should maybe add that you also can do your code very readable from the code-based approach using BDD. However, not on every project it is used, and that's why, yep, I maybe assume that in common you are correct.
Yeah, it will require more investment for you just to set up test automation framework and add an extra layer of the BDD as well. So anyway, it's kind of more handy.
Sorry, Margarita, could you try to check possibly your microphone is off?
Oh, okay. Sorry for that.
Okay, I guess now is okay. Thank you, guys, and let's discuss a little bit about our customers, because test automation it's some of feature for a business that help them to do best. And I know, Margarita, you trying yourself in pre-sales activities. Possibly you could share your experience how our customers thinking about codeless approach or code-based approach.
Yeah, I can speak of codeless approach just because I had such experience. I'd say that customers are happy. I can say that not all of them even know about the codeless tools that we can use for our test automation. But as soon as we are describing the approach, as soon as we are describing the pros of it, most of our customers are actually very interested in those. Because of those cons that I previously mentioned, yeah, it's super fast. We can engage manual testers to automation. It's really understandable, even for non-technical guys, how to write this test and how to read this test. And as well, one of the most pros from my perspective, I'd say that we have one team which is responsible for all of the testing cycle. Yeah, so we have kind of mixed testers who are responsible both for manual and automated testing, which gives us a lot of benefit.
Yuri, do we have any difference with codeless approach and code-based approach?
Well, from the customer's perspective, I also haven't ever seen any customer who wasn't happy with the test automations that we do. Doesn't matter what we use outside the box, right? So we can use. So on my projects, I'm keen on C# and .NET based solutions, but well, anyone that I was talking with and was working with, so are happy with what I'm doing on this sphere. For example, my current customer was chosen .NET-based automation because of they using Microsoft technologies. And they have already the all required infrastructure for Microsoft solutions and some licenses, for example, for the developing tools. And they have chosen C#-based test automation, and this can be the reason. So customer may want something like code-based. I know lots of pretty old projects with Java automation and some new projects that start using JavaScript, for example, because the JavaScript is some kind of the trend in test automation now. But again, I'm sure that our customers are happy with what we are doing with no matter how we're doing this.
Yeah, I'd also add that it's a matter of project, it's a matter of circumstances, it's not kind of a matter of a tool, which is good or bad. Every tool can be bad or good in particular circumstances for each particular project. So you just need to think of how to do it effectively, which tool to use to build effective test automation strategy. That's it.
But how we, as test automation engineers, could choose what approach we should choose, what tool or language we should choose? Possibly we have some stories about that or cases that you could share with our participants.
Well, one case I already mentioned about the customer who uses Microsoft. As for code tools, code-based tools, I think that we mostly depend on currently teams that are ready to start automation. For example, if we have teams that can start immediately Java, okay, we can use Java, because again, it doesn't matter what language we use, we could implement everything on any language. So we have no limitations. Maybe on Codeless we have some limitations. So some tool is okay for maybe UI automation, but bad for API and vice versa. But for code-based tool, we don't have any limitations. We have a big library of third-party libraries for Java, some solutions. We have Stack Overflow with lots of issues identified and resolved. We have big knowledge base of how to do fastest automation, how to do it efficiently. So, and it's pretty much it. So you have no limitations and you have choose everything.
Sometimes,
just repeating.
Sometimes our guys say that we used Stack Overflow based automation because a lot of issues, a lot of examples, and possibly half of all amount of test automation with some issues that is the most popular one. That's a pretty good resource.
Yeah, this is correct. So the code-based tools are pretty long time on the market, and there is a big history of pain that we were facing with, and most of it now resolved.
Okay, anything about Codeless?
I can only repeat that it actually depends on the project, depends on the circumstances you are in, depends on what you need to do, in which time frame you need to do. For example, if we have a really short-term project, when we, for example, need to do a lot of compatibility testing on different browsers and devices for really small functionality, it doesn't make any sense to build the test automation framework from scratch. Maybe even record and playback will work for you, just to automate some kind of smoke test, yeah? So it really depends on the project. It really depends on the needs of your testing. In some circumstances, in some situations, codeless approaches will work even better than code-based. I understand that you have kind of a flexibility, but we have speed, yeah, and we have kind of maybe not so big community, but it's actually growing as of now. I'd say that for some of the UI tools, for example, Tricentis Tosco already have some certifications, some trainings, so on and so forth. So the practice is actually growing.
You spoke about building a framework from scratch. However, it also depends on a project. So some project requires this big and complex solution to be built. Some project doesn't. So you can, if you have this framework, it's just maybe one or two iterations to start doing this. And after that, you can do testing and write tests. And based on my experience, also the onboarding of new people on a project, more time it takes to get some accounts, some access, and to give the information about the project, the scope, goals, some context of this project. So we spend more time on this, not on the learning the test automation, how we are doing this, because we use best practices, and almost all the engineers know these practices. So
Okay, we have the first question from our participants, and let's try to answer it right now, but possibly we answered it yet. Questions from Oleg. What do you think about point that codeless approach will start giving benefits faster than code-based approach?
Is this question for me? Or
It's a question
Well,
for both of you. What do you
well-
think about that?
Well, again, it more dependent on the project, and if we already have a team who does the manual testing, right, and they want to bring some and to have some benefits from test automation, to start this automation here is easier. If we start a project from scratch, so it can be faster, but you won't have any working application of a couple of first iterations. So you can have these benefits, but you can use them.
And in any case, I'd say that just choosing some tool is not enough. You should know how to automate and how to do it good. Yeah, how to build the test automation approach, how to build the process on your project. So it may give you a quick benefit, but if you don't know how to use this tool, you may be in a situation in some time where your automation will give you a headache. So it's not only a matter of tools, yeah, we're discussing here. And the question is too wide, I'd say. So I'm repeating to say that it really depends.
Okay, and what do you think, Guy? Does both of this approach could be applicable for one of project, and could they live together between with each other? For example, we used code-based approach for API testing, and we use codeless approach for UI testing inside one project. Do you have any cases about that, or share your opinion?
Well, I think that the less different technologies we have on a project, the better, because if we have just .NET, for example, on a project, and we use only this, you will spend less time to support this and less time for maintain in future. And even some developer can, with knowledge of code, in some cases, in some very strict situation, can help test automation engineers in their work, for example, and vice versa. I have some experience. And I have some projects that test automation engineers help the development team with fixing something. So having one or maybe two technologies on one project will save much time in comparison if we have more. For example, if we use Codebased for API and Vividus for UI, we should have the one more specialist here.
Yeah, I'd say that it's kind of exceptional situation. I can imagine that it may happen when, for example, you are taking the project from another team or another vendor, and they were kind of working this way for 5 years, for example, and they build a framework, so you need to adopt it somehow, but you understand that it's not working. An investment in rewriting all of those automated tasks is kind of expensive, yeah, so you need to support one and maybe build more effective solution. It may be acceptable, but I'd agree here with Yuri that it's not the best scenario, and it's always better to have some common approach on the project.
Okay, I got your points, guys. Our participants, don't hesitate to ask your questions in our chat, and we will ask them to our speaker somewhere later. Don't be shy. We're waiting for your question. And let's go into the next question that prepared from my side. And what do you think why we have to use Codeless? Because most of them is appropriately tool we need to pay before we start automation. What is your opinion on that question?
I'd say that not all of them are appropriate. So
It's quite tricky.
proprietary. Yeah. So actually, I'd say that it also depends. For example, you may come to a new project, to a new customer who has already paid for some codeless tool. And it may be even less an investment to just adopt this approach than start some code-based framework, code-based approach. Yeah? You have already paid for this tool, so why not using it? And as well, as I said, not all of the tools are, not for all of the tools you need to pay. So for example, we have Vividus, which is already released and available on the GitHub. Anyone can pull it in and start automation like from the day one. So we have a lot of not so powerful tools, like for example, I gave you seleniumede. So if you don't have any complex task, if you don't need to build any complex solution, you just need to automate some high-level tasks, smoke tasks, or something like this, just for you to make your life easier. You can use even such tools.
I could share some experience from my side. I see full regression testing made by seleniumede. It consists possibly 500 tests that has a difficult structure that relates from each other. They have several separate tests that only make variables for that, and it's something like data provider for others. This looks very, very strange, but it works.
Yeah, so the main it's working, and as well, we haven't thought about the tools like Postman and SoapUI. Those are actually also used for automation, and it's commonly used. So you can use any tool, which is actually, you will not need to pay for it, and build kind of a solution that will be suitable for your project, and that's okay. If it works for you, it's fine.
Anything to add, Yuri?
Just small advertising, Java, automate for free.
Let's talk a little bit about that. As you know, before starting any approach that code-based, we should start from what thing? It's prepare architecture and start creating new framework based on some tool, some programming language, of course. And why we should do a lot of that stuff, why we should make it every time that we start our automation, why we shouldn't choose codeless tools that working from box and avoid these extra actions that required a lot of hours, a lot of efforts, and a lot of money from the customer.
Well, so if we already chosen the code-based tool, the reasons can be what we mentioned before, customer needs, or we have a team that is ready to start automation using code, and customer doesn't want to pay for some runner X, for example. Yep, we decided to use them, and let's imagine that we decided to use it. So why we should invest time in building framework? Because it will save the time in future. So one iteration that you spend on framework will save you lots of hours and days in future, because you will not spend much time on maintaining and support this your test suites. You'll spend not much time to automate new tests, because framework make all this simpler. And you can use not some pure, like pure Selenium or pure some kind of the API testing library. You can use the kind of the already developed.
Pre-configured or some
pre-configured thing, right? Yeah.
Based
For
framework.
Java, for example, we have seleniumede. For C# we have a Tata framework, and also for all this we have GDI that was developed by EPAM. And these things, pretty pretty close to the mix between code and codeless. So because you can spend less time on developing some kind of framework from scratch and just bring the context in these prepared things.
As I know, videos that mentioned from Margarita also implements on Java and have a strict Java core inside it.
Yeah,
Is it really true?
like a lot of applications, not only test automation frameworks, but yeah.
Okay, a lot more questions about Vividus from our participants. Do you have any experience of work with Vividus? Does it cover all points or areas that needed for automation? And what about cons of Vividus directly?
Okay, it's actually a wide question. I can speak about it for 1 more hour. Yeah, I have pretty much
We're trying to do it in 5
Yeah,
minutes.
okay. I have pretty much big experience with Vividus and practicing different test kind of types, maybe different projects where we build the automation with Vividus. So, for example, I have from your interest and experience, I can share with you. For you to understand how powerful it is. We have been using Vividus for one of our customers when we needed to come up with testing of the data lake and the data pipeline. It's kind of a new experience for us, but anyway, we coped quite good, and one of our I'd say achievements was that we implemented even in sprint automation for this data lake. So we covered not only the data pipeline, but as well some kind of data quality checks, even though it was big data. And as well, for example, we implemented an automation for one of the projects where we needed to test the CI/CD pipeline, kind of solution for deployment of kind of 1,000 sites at a time. So our application was a CI/CD pipeline in Jenkins, and we also created an automated task for it in Vividus. So I'd say that it's kind of powerful. We're covering now a lot of different testing types, not only UI, not only API, databases, but some other quite of specific things like I've mentioned, for big data, for example, and integration with NoSQL databases. And yeah, what was the second part of the question beside of the pros of the Vividus?
Let me check.
Maybe cons?
Cons?
Yeah. What about current cons of Vividus?
Okay, it's difficult to say just because I'm really working with it for from starting, yeah. So from when it was built, actually. What may be minuses? I'd say that previously we had a minus that we didn't have a mobile testing, but in these months we got an integration with the APM. So currently. It's also covered for Vividus as well. I can say that we have any cons, straightforward cons. I can say that it's not so commonly used, so you need to kind of on board to it, yeah. You need to engage into testing. Still, we have a DSL. It's kind of a human readable, but you need to understand how to work with this tool. And in working with the Vividus, you cannot just launch the UI, for example, like we have with Tricentis Tosca. You need to know how to use Git, how to work with IDE, how to work with XPaths and so on and so forth. So you need a technical background to start an automation in Vividus. It's not always like one day and you are starting testing. And unfortunately, as of now, we don't have solid mentoring program, I'd say, yeah, for guys to just simply engage into automation. We're working on it, but you cannot just launch some course. And start to automate in Vividus like by yourself.
Anything to add?
Yep. So it sounds like Vividus kind of the one rule one ring to rule them all, right? So you say that VVDOS can be applied everywhere, right? Or it does have some limitations of where to be applied or what class of applications to be used for?
I'd say that, of course, we have limitations. I just named, the most commonly used applications. Yeah, there's web, mobile, APIs, databases. That's what we're commonly dealing with. But for example, we're not covering desktop applications at all. Yeah, so definitely we have some applications that we're not covering because we cannot cover everything. And as well, today we have a lot of new different technologies that are coming, and we may not even be in time, with coverage of such things, just because it's kind of pre-built tool. Yeah, we're flexible, but not so flexible as, for example, just a test automation framework, which we are building in just code solution.
Just a small extras. What about mobile automation? You mentioned that you implemented it at least 1 month before. You mean web mobile or native mobile, and what kind of platform it supports?
Native mobile in Appium. We provide an integration points with some modern continuous testing frameworks and tools, like, for example, Sales Labs or browser stack. So, for example, if you need to work on some real devices and use an automated testing for mobile testing, you can integrate it with the Sales Labs and run the tests on it. Or you can use local emulator.
Sounds good, but possibly I need to take a training to use that pretty tool.
Well, actually, I have one more question about VVDOS. So, is there any possibilities to speed up your tests using VVDOS, for example, some kind of parallelization?
Yeah, we have it. If you have enough hardware, if you are working with the CI/CD, you can run your test in parallel. For example, made some nodes in Jenkins and just running it for different threads. So yeah, we have multi-threading.
Okay.
It looks like an interview about the VVDOS more than
we're trying to stop you. But a lot of questions about it. Possibly it will be on another session if our participant wants. But what is your opinion? I know that you trying to work with plain Java and work with Codeless tool. What is the most interesting for you? I guess it's a question also for our participants, because they want to know what is interesting to them, and a lot of manual QA, for example, that wants to start their path in automation, wants to choose what I should do. I should learn Java, or I should learn some Codeless tools.
Yeah. So
what is your opinion?
From my experience, I'd say that I haven't worked on plain Java a lot. It was kind of a few months, maybe half a year. And I also finished a mentoring program inside of EPAM for Java, the test automation. But I can say that from my perspective, the most interesting thing in work of automated tester is just dealing not only with technical challenges, like just write I don't know, cover interesting functionality, find interesting libraries that you can play with, something like this. For me, it's like, wow, I finished it and my test report is green. Wow, yeah, it's the best feeling ever. So it's kind of a matter of tools. I can give this, I can take this and feel this by using Java or Codeless tool, yeah. As for the question, what is better to choose, it really depends on the person, yeah. So Codeless approach is definitely not requiring to start diving into the programming language. It's a benefit. You don't need to spend a lot of time to learn some particular language, just because, and yeah, it's not even start and on board for half a year. You need to learn it like during your work every day. to be in trend, to understand how it's working. You cannot just learn Java for half a year and then not learning nothing. Yeah. So you need to understand whether you want to invest so much time into the working and learning, studying programming language. I don't know what to say more. From the pros and cons of each approach, I suppose we covered pretty much everything.
Okay, got your point, Yuri. Possibly you could say why you like your code-based approach and programming language at all.
Yeah, it gives me a possibility to implement kind of new big testing solutions, build architecture, so to make our testing more efficient, and to use some new maybe side libraries for testing some maybe selenium-based things, not selenium-based things, to try more maybe approaches, design things, design patterns. So all of this together for me is a possibility to implement something new. So because we have best approaches, right? But one framework and one testing solution can be very different from the other because it has a completely different context, completely different application. And each application requires some kind of individual ways to solve the problems. And for testing discipline, I prefer, and I was chosen as the test automation because it allows you not to spend all of your time behind the computer, in front of the computer, but also speak with other people and well, understanding how the application is working in common, not in the different well, pieces. But in common, what a customer wants from this application, what is this application designed for, and who will be using it. And this is testing, and testing gives this to me. So this is my personal.
Okay, thank you. As you know, a lot of people knows such kind of joke where a lot of IT specialists has some like competition between each other, manual testing, automation testing and DevOps testing and developers, and it looks like competition every time, everywhere. But what do you think? Does it only really joke, or we have some truth in that? And do you feel some competition between automation engineers on codeless and code-based approaches? What do you think?
I'd say not at all. It's like asking, do you feel any competition between guys that write on Java and C#? It's just tools. Yeah, it just means by which we can implement some solution. As for the programming languages, as for these approaches, it's just as well tools that can help us to build the effective test automation strategy. So as I previously said, it depends on the project, it depends on the circumstances, which approach is better, but it's definitely not a competition, I'd say no.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Once maybe to add, I tend to see on this both of these approaches like test automation. So it's just different ways to do this test automation, and codeless solutions can just bring more people to test automation.
Yeah, that's right. More people that are currently, for example, started to learn programming languages, but for some reason just stuck and thought that it's not interesting, it's not for me, I'm too stupid to program in some language. For example, even if it's not true, even if you think that, it's not of your path, you can try new things. You can try codeless automation. Maybe it will suit better to you. And as well, as I said previously, it also gives us some transparency. It can engage other team members into automated testing, even those guys that don't know anything about the programming language. So it's a good way to engage all of your team into quality, and that's what we're actually working for, just to provide a good quality of our product.
Okay, nice. And we have a lot of titles that sometimes make our brains to exploit. And one more question from our participant: do I understand correctly? If you see code-based approach, you are test automation engineer. If you see codeless approach, you are quality engineer. What is the difference between those layers?
Okay, not exactly. Not exactly. I can speak of the quality engineering just because I'm a quality engineer. So for example, we are now have in our discipline guys that are working with code-based approaches. Yeah, so software quality engineer is tester who is kind of mixed, yeah, in common words. It's a person who works on manual testing and on automated testing like 50-50. Yeah, so this guy can build, for example, on the higher levels, can not only build the test strategy, knows how to work with manual testing. This person knows which approach to use, for example, which approach to choose to be more effective in automated testing. So, for example, the lead software quality engineer's job is to define which approach to use, code-based or codeless. So I'd say that it's not working that way. Like, for example, only test automation engineers writing in code. Yeah, software quality engineer is more about it is more mix between manual tester and automated tester.
Yeah.
I guess it's enough.
Yeah, and I also know some projects that has some kind of mixed position. From my point of view, if you most of your time spent on coding, doesn't matter what, you are just automation engineer more than rather than a software quality maybe engineer. If you are not just writing tests, but developing some DevOps activities, pipelines, and developing the architecture of your test automation solutions, you are software engineering test. If you most of your time testing manually and implementing, writing new test cases, you are functional tester. So this is pretty not the border, but the way how maybe we understand this.
Yeah, just to add, it's not about the titles, yeah, that's what we're discussing here. Good example, what I gave related to record and playback tools. You may not be software quality engineer. You may not be a software quality engineer, but you may use some automation tools in your day-to-day work. For example, you just need to cover a smoke test just to run it daily for 2 weeks. So you can use a simple record and playback tool that will just save you some time. It may not make you a software quality engineer or a test automation engineer.
Okay, and additionally, in that case, manual tester can become quality engineer after some experience, knowledge getting about codeless tools, Vividus.
Yeah.
Is it applicable?
Yeah, but not only after getting some knowledge, but getting some experience with this tool as well. So depending on your level, you should have particular experience. You can take a look, if you're EPAMer, you can take a look on the competency, epam.com, and see which is required for software quality engineer. But yeah, you can study some codeless tool, you can practice, you can work with it in production, and then I'd say, welcome.
Okay, so let's return to base question for our discussion. What is the better, codeless or code-based?
Well, I came here and were very well and we're thinking about that. Okay, code-based tool is the best, and this is something that provides value. But now I don't think this, and I don't think this way, and I tend to think that in some circumstances, Codeless tool is better. In other circumstances, code-based tool is better. So it more depending on the project. It more depending on what team you have, what skills this team apply, and what customer wants from the testing and from the test automation.
Yeah, totally agree. So it's just a matter of the project and a matter of your understanding, for example, as a test lead, for which project, for which circumstances is better to use which approach. So as I said, it's just a tool to build an effective automated testing. That's it.
So guys, let's thinking about quality. At that point, we end our events, and I want to say thank you for our speakers, thank you for our participants. I hope that you all enjoy our event and it was useful for you. Stay with us, with our community, join us to YouTube, Telegram and Community Z. You can find the link under this video. Subscribe to our channel, like some videos and leave comments and questions if you have. And our speakers will answer there soon. Let's make our future together. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.